So let's make sure that something useful happens when this button is pressed. For that, I will add action creators, because of course I want to dispatch an action when this is pressed. So in my store actions folder, I'll add a new file auth.js. And there I want to set up authentication related actions. I now also will set up some action types in the action types file. I'll export them and I will add a auth start action type. Identifier therefore is also auth start. And then I'll duplicate it twice to also create a auth success action type and a auth fail action type, because obviously authentication can also fail. Now in auth.js, I will import all action types. So as action types from /action types. And I now want to create a couple of action creators. I'll export them all. The first one is the auth start action creator. I will make this a function, of course. I don't actually request or require any inputs here. I just want to return a JavaScript object where the type is of type action types auth start. I don't pass any payload here. I will essentially use this action to set a loading state and potentially show a spinner if I want to. Next, I'll add a const auth success. This function here will get some data of data. And here I want to also return a JavaScript object. The type will be of type auth success, of course, and I'll pass on the auth data. We'll have a look at what this is later. Now we need another action creator here, auth fail. Here we get a potential error, and I will return a JavaScript object here too. The type will be action types auth fail, and I will then pass on the error like so. Finally, I'll add one last action type. That will be the one holding the async code doing the authentication. I'll just name it auth. Here I expect to get the email and the password. And I will then return dispatch, so a function which gets dispatch as an argument, thanks to Redux func. And in there, I now want to authenticate the user. Now for now, I'll simply dispatch auth start here to at least set this state. Now with that, we of course need to connect our actions to our container so that we can dispatch them. So I'll head over to the auth container, and there I want to import my actions. To do so, I will add my auth action creators to the index.js file where I bundle all my exports from that actions folder. So I'll export everything I need from ./auth without the file extension. And right now, that is really just the auth method itself. Now with that, we can go back to the auth container and import all the actions here. So import everything as actions from, and now let's go up to the store, to the actions and to the index.js file. And now we can add our good old const map dispatch to props constant to be able to dispatch something here via props in this component. So there, as always, I will return a JavaScript object. And there I want to create an onAuth prop, which I can use as a method, which therefore holds a reference to a method, where I will eventually dispatch my action, and I want to dispatch the auth action. Now, as you saw when we set this up, the auth action requires an email and a password. So I do expect to get this here when we execute this property, basically, so that I can pass it on when executing auth. Map dispatch to props does only make sense if we connect it to this container. So I will now import connect from React Redux so that we can do that. So import connect from React Redux like this. With that, we can go back to the bottom of the file and now execute connect and pass null for map state to props because we don't have that yet. and map this patch to props as the second argument. And I'll also wrap my auth container, of course. With that, we can execute on/off on our props in this container. And I want to do this whenever the form is submitted. So I will add an onSubmit handler here and execute this submit handler. I'll add this method to this container, the submit handler. I do expect to get the event there because I first of all need to call event prevent default to prevent the reloading of the page. And thereafter, I want to call this props on/off and execute it. And of course, I need to pass email and password. So I'll reach out to this state controls email value and this state controls password value. With that, let's save this and let's see if this works. Back in our project, I can enter an email address here and a password. If I click submit and inspect Redux, we see that auth start was dispatched successfully. So that's working, but of course nothing else works yet. The next step is to run some async code, which actually does authenticate ourselves. And as I said, we'll do this using Firebase.